Hi, I'm Susan Shaner, and I'm your host today of Community Forum. And I have the great pleasure to have with me Nancy Hershatter, who is the local coordinator for the Council for Educational Travel USA. That's a long
It sure is.
name. Welcome, Nancy.
It's a mouthful. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what's the short version of the name?
CET.
CET. Okay.
CET, yes.
So tell us, what is CET?
CET is an organization that was founded 20 years ago in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I'm the local coordinator for the high school program, and what we do is that we bring students from over 40 different countries to live with an American family and study in an American high school. And they come from Germany, from Spain, from Japan, from Thailand, many different places in the world.
So how is it different than AFS, American Field Service?
They're very similar.
That's what I think of when I think of foreign students coming here or American students going there.
Right. So very similar. AFS was, I think, was founded here on the East Coast, and so that's the organization that most people here know of. CET was founded in the Midwest, so that's the one that most people know of.
Oh, really?
In the Midwest, yeah. So here in Connecticut, I'm the coordinator for this area, and then there's a coordinator also around New London, but I don't know that there's anybody in between.
So they do the same things? I mean, are you competing for the same students?
No, not really.
And host families?
Not really, because I don't know how big AFS is, because I haven't actually looked into that, but I know that CET has brought 80,000 students over the 20 years. And typically there are 1,000 students in the pool waiting for host families. Usually by springtime we have that many. And they go to Alabama, to Wyoming, to the Midwest, all over the country.
Are they in all 50 states?
I'm not sure about all 50, but a whole bunch.
Okay.
A lot of different states. And it's interesting because some of the students will say that they'd like to be in a rural setting, and some say they'd rather be in an urban setting. We try to match families' interests and backgrounds with those of the students. So a family might say to us, I'd really like, I'd like a kid from Spain because I want my kids to practice their Spanish. I'd love someone who plays soccer because I have a son on the soccer team. And we can find a soccer-playing boy from the coast of Spain and match them up. And it's worked really well that way because it gives them a common ground to begin to build a relationship.
And so how did the students find out about this program? So there's students from abroad that come here and American students that go there.
Right.
Yeah.
My piece of it is just to place the students who come from abroad.
Okay.
And they are placed through, we have overseas partners in each of these countries. And so they apply to the overseas partners, and the overseas partners then do all of the paperwork to get them here, the visa, the passport. But each of these students has to be screened by CET and the overseas partners. We have to make sure that they have the English language capability to hit the ground running when they get here. For example, right now I have a student from Sweden who's living with a family in Fairfield, and his English is excellent. Absolutely excellent, and he's already joined the football team and is planning to join the basketball team, and it's been a really good experience for everybody.
So you have partners over there that help screen and recruit students. I am curious, though, I know it's not your part, but I am curious about American students because, for example, my daughter just graduated Bethel High, and they were promoting AFS. I never heard of CET until you approached me about it. So are you actively recruiting American students? The organization, not you, but the organization?
Yeah. I'm not sure about that piece of it because that's not my area.
Okay. All right. I was just curious because, again, like I said, I never heard of CET. So, so you have the students would come to you through, I guess, partner organizations from abroad. And then, so what is your role exactly?
My role is to find host families in this area, to build a relationship with high schools, making sure that the high schools are open to the idea and would welcome these students. Typically a medium-sized high school will have, say, 2 slots for foreign students. New Milford High, for example, is interested in working with us. They've had students through other organizations in the past, and it's been really positive, both for the New Milford students and for the students from abroad. I know last year they had a student from Japan who joined the marching band, and I happen to know that the kids in the marching band are still Skyping with her and FaceTiming with her, though she's back in Japan.
So you approach the high schools to see if they're willing to host. So you haven't come across where they already have AFS in there?
I haven't had high schools that have said, no, we're already hosting AFS students.
So what's the criteria for a school to host a student?
Simply that they have to be willing to work with a student, and most high schools are open to the idea.
Okay. Yeah. And then how do you go about recruiting families?
I have set up booths outside of grocery stores, farmers markets, the Pootatug duck race in Newtown, wherever there are going to be a number of people coming by. I have set up booths with information. I've talked to Lions clubs and Rotary clubs, and I'm going to be going into high schools and talking to some of the foreign language clubs.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So yeah, because I think that's where you'll find.
So what is this? So when a family agrees to host a student, what are they signing up for?
What they are signing up for is a cross-cultural adventure, basically. It's an academic year of having a student from another country living with you.
So from August to June?
August to June.
Okay.
Yeah. They come on what's called a J1 visa, which has certain stipulations. One of them is that they need to leave the country 7 days after the school year ends. So they can't stay on even if they've formed really close relationships.
Oh, they couldn't even stay for a couple weeks to travel? No.
No.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just know that those are the stipulations of the State Department. Now, CET and AFS and all of these other organizations that bring students from abroad have to answer to the State Department. And the State Department has regulations, which CET has consistently come out as very highly rated by the State Department. And that's because we have very high standards within the organization. We have coordinators checking in with the families and the students every 4 weeks, being available by phone, being available to run interference if there are issues with the school, if that's needed. Checking in with the student, are you homesick? Are you struggling with math? How are things going? Just had a long walk on the beach the day before yesterday with Eric, my Swedish student, and asked him how things were going, and he pointed out some things he'd noticed about cultural differences already, though he's been here just 5 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, can you say what an example is?
Yeah, he said, the guys on the football team sit down and they drink soda and eat potato chips at lunchtime. He said, why are they doing that? They're sabotaging their health. And I thought,
yeah.
very interesting that this student from Sweden is much more health conscious than his peers in the States. I thought, and he also said, why do you drive all of these ostentatious automobiles?
Yeah.
So, just noticing some
Good
things.
observations.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said, we don't do that in Sweden. I said, we shouldn't be doing it here either. So it was a lovely walk. But it's, for me, I started getting interested in doing this because in my own childhood, from about ages 8 to 12 maybe, my mom was the volunteer coordinator for the Yale Foreign Student Organization. And we had foreign students who came and stayed with us, not for a year, but for a long weekend and then intermittently throughout the year that they were at Yale. We had a West African prince appear in our driveway in full regalia robes when I was about 8 and a half. I still remember his name was Amadou Tijani. And this small town in Connecticut, my whole world opened up.
Yeah.
There's a very interesting world out there beyond our borders. We had Ravinder Kaur who came and made Indian curry in our kitchen, and so every summer it was another culture that we were being introduced to. So that's where it started, and then of course I traveled in Europe in my 20s and lived in England for a year and went hosteling in Switzerland and all of that. So that I think the pump was primed, so that when I read about this opportunity, I thought that really sounds like a neat thing to do, and so far I've really enjoyed it.
So, what's your criteria for how you select families to host?
I am looking for it does not have to be any particular family constellation. It doesn't have to be a family with a high school student, although it can be.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to have a student in high school. You can be an older couple with kids who've flown the coop and suddenly things are too quiet.
Yeah.
We've had same-sex couples that's worked out beautifully. We've had couples with young children where it's worked out, as long as they don't expect them to be an au pair, because that's not why they're here.
Right. Even a single person could do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. All that's required is that you have a bed that's not, a convertible bed. It has to be a real bed. Space for them to study. providing 3 meals a day. They come with their own spending money, their own medical insurance, their own accident insurance. All of that is taken care of.
But you probably have to be around to drive them around.
Well,
and things
yeah,
like
but
that.
what happens is that they begin to make friends, and so sometimes the friends are driving, and the friends can drop them off after soccer practice. Or some schools have a late bus that kids can take after an activity.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to be driving around all the time. And families have also said, but we both work. That's okay, because these students typically are pretty independent. European kids, I think, are independent earlier than American kids and used to, making their way around.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know why that is, but it's just something that I have heard and read and noticed myself. And I think that it's kind of a self-selecting thing, because students who apply to come already have a spirit of adventure and a certain level of independence.
They have to be pretty outgoing.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And just to be able to say, yes, I want to spend a year away from my family. I'm only 16 or 17 years old.
Right.
So, it's kind of a self-selecting group in that way.
So that's interesting too, in terms of criteria. What do you look for in students? Obviously, a level of maturity, no English, but what else?
They have to have, most of them have started learning English in 2nd or 3rd grade and are pretty fluent by the time they're 15, 16, 17. So yes, a level of maturity, a sense of adventure, and just a desire to come to this country and learn about American culture. And I have found that most of these kids are really eager to do that.
So who are your most successful placements? I mean, you're mentioning this boy, Eric. Kind of what makes the placement successful between the student and the family and the school?
I would say that when there's a common interest between the student and the family, whether it's music or sports or just language learning, theater, whatever it is, some kind of a common ground. And then the relationship starts there, and then it begins to flower and blossom over the course of the student's stay. And I would say that the most successful ones are when the host mom puts the student on the plane and goes home and cries for 2 days, which I've heard happens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they're so attached by the end of the stay. They've really wormed their way into the family's hearts.
Because you haven't been doing this very long, right?
Not very long. I just started.
Okay.
I just started.
So you're hearing other people's stories about what happens.
Exactly.
Okay.
My regional manager, Anna Perch, who is based in New London, has been doing this for 5 years. And right now she's got 4 girls. One's from Italy, one's from China, one is from China, Italy, oh gosh, it's Germany. And I think she's got 2 girls from Italy, actually. And they're all in the eastern part of the state, around North Stonington. And
so have there been any that haven't turned out so well, and where there's issues either with the host family or the student, and what are the kinds of things that happen that aren't a good match?
I have not had any firsthand experience with that. Most of the time it works out really well. I have heard that every once in a while a student might need to be moved to a different home. Either the circumstances change in the original host family, or maybe it just doesn't work out the way they expected it to. But 95% of the time it does work well. And partly that's because of the way CET sets it up, with the support in place, with the coordinator having a relationship with the high school, calling the guidance counselor saying, hey, how are things going? We don't just say, here's your kid and goodbye.
Yeah, so like, for example, now, how many kids in Connecticut are here?
Right now there are, as far as I know, 5.
Okay.
But 4 of them are at the other end of the state. My personal goal is that by next year I'd like to have 5 or 6 students in the Danbury, Ridgefield, New Milford area.
And do even the 5 students now today, do they get together and do things?
Before they got dispersed to their host families, there was something called soft landing camp, where they got off the plane, they all got together in New York, they got to tour New York with CET staffers facilitating that whole thing. And they were together for about 4 days. And then there are programs that CET has during the school breaks where
do they join other states, like kids from New York that are placed in New York as well?
Right, exactly. So my Swedish student met kids who subsequently went on to Chicago, the Midwest, Southeast, I think, I'm forgetting what he told me, but
So they all fly in from their respective countries, and then they
they're
come
met
and,
in New York by CETUSA staff, and then they have this 4-day, basically, orientation to America.
So the ongoing support, so you're the local coordinator here in this area, so you would be the one checking in on the student, just saying, hey, how's it going? So how frequently?
Well, every 4 weeks.
Okay. So you go and meet with them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I said to Eric, it was this gorgeous, gorgeous day 2 days ago. You know, the sky was blue and it was just beautiful. I said, we can do ice cream, pizza, or a walk on the beach. What do you pick? And Fairfield Beach is where they live, and it's just like, you know, minutes from the beach. So we took a walk on the beach.
Well, it sounds like he wasn't going to be having any of that junk food.
I guess not. He would have gone for ice cream. Yeah.
So, and then what about support for the families?
There's something called the pre-arrival orientation, where I sit down with the family and I walk them through what this could be like. And there is a handbook that they get. CETUSA, having done this for 20 years, they've seen everything and they really know how to support families through the process. And so, you know, I walk them through what might be some of the behaviors that they might see when students, you know, when the newness wears off, and they realize, oh my goodness, I'm really in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like after a month or two, I would think, okay, like I'm not going home for another 7 months or 8 months.
Right, and also laying ground rules out, saying this is how we function here as a family, and these are our ground rules, and this is we expect you to, whether it's, you know, do your own laundry, not drink the last Coke in the fridge. You know, every family has quirks.
Yeah.
And different ways of interrelating, and the more that you can lay that out to the newcomer, the more smoothly that transition will go.
Plus, there's cultural differences, like you were saying. Even Eric's like looking at, no matter how many movies he's seen or whatever, you actually come to another country and it's different.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's getting used to what those differences are.
Right. Yeah. So I think that the best scenario is when a family has been armed with enough information to have a sense of what to expect, to know that they can call me if something.
So you're saying you don't really know of stories either where the student realized, oh, I don't want to be here for 10 months. Has anybody ever gone home, or where the family says, you know what, we didn't know really what we were signing up for. We're not really going to continue for this.
If that were to happen, the first line of intervention would be for me to meet with the family and the student, see if we could work it out, develop a plan of action.
Yeah.
If the problem is with the school, I would sit down with the guidance counselor. After we've gone through all of those steps, I've worked with my own supervisor, my own regional manager. If things still aren't working at that point, as I've mentioned, sometimes students are moved from one house to another. But that's extremely rare.
So there's phases.
Right, and it's even rarer for a student to be sent home.
So they don't go home at all during the 10 months?
No.
Is their family allowed to come and visit them?
They're not supposed to, and the rationale behind that really is that we want the emphasis to be on the relationship with the host family and for them to be able to really just focus on that.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's different because 10 months is a long time, and especially at that age. But these days, they could always Skype.
Skyping and FaceTime.
They could see people. It's not the same in the old days where you'd just be on the phone.
Right, or you had to wait 3 weeks for a letter to arrive.
Right.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that.
I know.
When I was studying in England, and it took a very long time. I remember writing for permission from my dean to stay an extra semester, fully expecting her to say no. And by the time she said yes, we were already packing our bags to go home. It took a long time for letters to arrive.
So what's the benefit of a family to do this?
There are many. I think that when you are showing your country and your community, your neighborhood to a newcomer, you see your own world with new eyes, new perspective, new appreciation. You're exposing your own children to this world beyond our borders. You're giving them the opportunity for a relationship that often becomes a lifetime friendship.
Yeah. So is that the case? A lot of times they stay in touch.
Oh, yeah. I heard about 3 girls from North Stonington who were raising money so they could go to Denmark and see their friend. They just, couldn't stand to be apart.
Yeah.
So, often the relationships are close and they do continue. They're sustained.
So what would you say to a family like, oh my God, another teenager in the house? Yeah, you know.
Well, I would say that the Satusa kids I have met are good kids.
Yeah.
They are good students. They're polite. They are eager to be here. And they can contribute in many ways to the life of the family, to the life of the school. The whole goal of global understanding through cross-cultural friendships is what got Satusa started and is what sustains Satusa over the whole 20 years that it's been in existence. It's really looking for ways to help build world peace by helping people understand other cultures, and the best way the founders felt was to encourage one-on-one encounters and relationships, and that's how it got started.
And when you live with people, it's a whole different situation than if you're just visiting. And in 10 months, that's a long enough period of time that you get to know each other pretty well.
Right, absolutely.
And so, if someone was interested in this, what are some of the things you would suggest that they consider? They're interested in being a host family.
Well, I would love for them to contact me so we could talk about it, and I could point out what the positives are, and also just guide them to think about how this life-changing experience might be integrated into their home. And also, if there are two partners, they both have to really want to do this.
Yeah.
If there are children, they have to want to do it. It can't be mom's gung-ho and dad doesn't want to, or as I encountered, a same-sex couple where one of the partners really wanted it and the other one said, we don't have kids for a reason, I'm not going there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so the first one was very disappointed, but you can't force somebody to do something that they're convinced they don't want to do.
Yeah.
So the whole family has to be on board. That's number one.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
You have 4 members of the family, to have everybody in alignment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to one family who want to do it next year. They want to wait until their older child has a driver's license because it'll make it easier for the mom. And that made perfect sense to me.
Absolutely.
But they also have an adopted daughter from China, and they want to have a girl from China come for this girl who's now 9.
That would be really cool.
Right. So
and so how old are the
that.
students? They're 15 to 17?
Yes,
Is that typically the age?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They usually come for their junior year and then go home and complete their last year over there.
Okay.
Depending on the country, some of the countries have like a 5-year high school where the last year is more like community college.
I was going to say, how does that work? Because junior year is a tough year to come. I mean, I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in the United States, it's like sort of the last full year that colleges are looking at. So it doesn't seem to be an issue for the students, it sounds like.
It doesn't seem to be, because they usually go back and finish their last year there and then go on to university. Yeah.
And I guess if some of them are considering going to college in the States, they have a chance to maybe explore around a little bit.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Of course, they can't go directly from a Satusa program to university, because the J1 visa stipulates they have to go home at the end.
Right, but if it's their junior year anyway,
Right,
they
they're
go home
going to
for
go
a
home
year.
for a year, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also they're not to work while they're here, unless it's mowing the lawn or occasional
really?
babysitting job. They're not to work because we want the experience to be really focused on the social interactions and on having the experience of living with a family and on having the time to focus on their studies.
So they can't go get a job at like Rita's or something, but they could babysit or cut lawns or something like that.
Exactly. And that's a Satusa regulation, so it's across the board.
That's interesting. So what else? What else
do I have to say?
Yeah.
Just that I encourage families to think about this opportunity. It's an opportunity to really expand your world.
So in terms of, from a financial perspective, the money out of their pocket is really room and board. So they're just paying for groceries and whatever, but the students have their spending money.
Right, right.
And I guess it also means that they would go on go with the family on vacation.
Yeah. Although if for some reason the family has plans that don't include the student, there are backup families that will take them for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's interesting. So if a family was going to go on vacation and they wouldn't bring the student along?
Yeah, but most of them do. 90% of the time they do.
That seems like it'd be a little
yeah.
painful.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I haven't heard of any students that didn't get to go on vacation with families.
Yeah.
But again, I'm relatively new.
Yeah, but I mean, that's an added cost for the family as well.
Right.
From that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, are there, I would imagine there might be instances where the student doesn't want to go on vacation with the family.
Not that I've heard.
I mean,
Not that I've heard of.
yeah.
And then there are also CET programs during school breaks that they can do.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And then what about the schools? So the schools generally sound favorable for this program.
Yeah.
What's been their experience with the students?
For the most part, from what I understand, the schools have been, once they've done it, have wanted to do it again. I know, for example, that Stonington had 2 or 3 students, and they called my regional manager, my supervisor, and said, "We'd like to do it again."
Oh, that's great.
It was really positive, and that's the town where the kids are raising money so they could go to Denmark.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine the kind of students you would attract are students that have the maturity level, they're extroverted, and they probably have certain leadership capabilities.
Exactly.
And you said good grades, so
Yeah.
why wouldn't the school
Right.
benefit from it?
Yeah, basically they have brought their strengths and their talents and enriched the life of the school. You know, there's one
Fabulous.
principal I spoke with who definitely felt that way.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said you just started doing this last. So you're just coming up on one full cycle of it.
Right.
Okay.
And on the CET website, students are already starting to sign up for next September.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
yeah. I was reading some of their profiles, and there was the adorable 16-year-old Buddhist girl from Thailand who plays the ukulele. So
Oh.
I'd be really interested in finding a local family who's musical who might like to host this girl.
That sounds like an interesting
Yeah.
combination.
Yeah,
Ukulele.
yeah.
Okay, so if a family was interested, how would they contact you?
My email is Nancy, Nancy, dot Cetusa, CETUSA, @gmail.com. Nancy.cetusa@gmail.com. And if you drop me a line with your phone number, I will call you and be happy to talk to you about this.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for joining us, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm Susan Shaner with Community Forum. Until next time, thanks for joining us.